Grab this moment to unlock the tokenization revolution.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Busting the myths around tokenization, catch me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
Unlocking the future of finance.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me
as we yield the power of tokenization.
Discover the future of
ownership, where I decode,
demystify tokenization for you.
empowering the tokenized revolution.
Get ready to dive
For an in-depth look at tokenization.
Busting the myths around tokenization.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show tonight, as the Ukraine-Russia ceasefire talks takes place in Saudi Arabia, the missiles and the bombs on the battlefield don't seem to be stopping. On Gravitas tonight, we will ask, can diplomacy bring an end to the devastation? Shifting our focus to another war front, as Gaza braces for Israel's expanded ground offensive, Tel Aviv has moved its 36th Armored Division for operations in the Gaza Strip. All this as 61 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours. We will also tell you about the growing unrest in Turkey after the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Around 1,100 people have been detained, including journalists. We'll get you a complete report on that tonight. We will also tell you if AI is perhaps making us lonely. A new study suggests that as we get more connected to our devices, we might be becoming more disconnected from each other. All that and a lot more lined up on the show tonight. Let's get you started. top focus on Gravitas. Bombs and missiles continue to light up the Russian and Ukrainian skies, leaving a trail of utter devastation. Even as discussions in Saudi Arabia attempt to forge a path to ceasefire in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Early on Monday, Ukraine claimed a major strike against Russian forces, targeting 4 attack helicopters with U.S.-supplied HIMARS missiles. The operation unfolded in Belgorod region, deep within Russian territory. And on your screens right now, you can see the footage released by Ukraine's special forces, showing US-made HIMARS missiles blowing up 2 Russian Ka-52 and 2 Mi-8 helicopters. The HIMARS missile launcher used in the attack relies heavily on US intelligence for its precision targeting. And if you remember, this same intelligence was briefly withheld by Washington, D.C. earlier this month before being reinstated by the US. Now, this attack comes at a very crucial moment. Negotiations are underway in Riyadh, where American and Russian officials are discussing measures to ease tensions between Moscow and Kiev. Meanwhile, there is no pause on the battlefield. Russia launched a massive overnight drone attack on Ukraine, striking multiple regions, including Kiev, Kharkiv, and Zaporizhia. Ukraine's Air Force reported shooting down 57 out of 99 Shahid drones launched by Russia. But the destruction caused by the drones, that was devastating. In Kiev, a large-scale drone attack claimed at least 3 lives, including a 5-year-old child. Falling drone debris set ablaze a high-rise residential building in Ukraine's capital, Kiev, leading to the death of a woman.
A balcony on one room is now destroyed. Everything else is destroyed inside, and windows facing this side were blown out. A woman who lived on the 9th floor was burnt alive.
And the latest coming in, a Russian missile attack on a residential area in Ukraine's Sumy struck residential areas and a hospital. According to reports, at least 65 people were injured in this attack, including 14 children. Sumy is located just 30 kilometers from the border with Russia and has witnessed constant missile and drone strikes by Russia. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country, rail services were disrupted as Ukraine's state-owned railway, Ukrazatskaya, reported a massive cyber attack on its systems. The company said that restoration efforts are underway, adding that train services remain operational. In a statement, Russia's defense ministry said that its air defense systems intercepted 4 dam-guided bombs, 3 HIMARS, and nearly 230 drones in the last 24 hours. These figures further reflect the scale of the conflict, which shows no signs of abating, even as diplomatic channels remain open. In Riyadh, U.S. officials have met separately with both Ukrainian and Russian delegations. It was earlier planned as simultaneous meetings to allow for shuttle diplomacy, but the talks are now taking place sequentially. And according to reports, discussions are centered on critical issues, including a mutual pause of long-range attacks targeting energy infrastructure and civilian areas between Ukraine and Russia. There's also a strong push to secure the Black Sea for commercial shipping. And ahead of the talks, the Kremlin said that Russia and the United States are aiming towards a settlement to end the 3-year war, adding that there are various aspects that need to be finalized. Well, the meeting is expected to be followed by another contact between US and Ukrainian teams. As bombs fall and talks move forward, the diplomatic talks move forward, one question looms large. Can diplomacy bring an end to the devastation? Or will this conflict spiral further out of control? Shifting our focus to West Asia, where Israel's relentless bombardment of Gaza has claimed the lives of at least 61 Palestinians. That's the death toll in Gaza in just the last 24 hours. 61 people were killed in one day, and 134 others were wounded over the last day in Gaza. Israel has renewed its assault on Gaza a day after moving one of its divisions to south of Gaza. We're talking about the 36th Armored Brigade. Israeli forces bombed Gaza's Nasser hospital, killing at least 5 people, including Hamas leader Ismail Baroum. That's what Israel has claimed. The Israeli airstrike hit Nasser hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis on Sunday. Footage shared by news agency Reuters showed flames burning the exterior sign on the hospital's facade, while clouds of smoke billowed from the building. The Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas, said that the Israeli strike hit hospital's surgery department, while the IDF said its attack followed extensive intelligence and used precise munitions to minimize harm at the site.
The strike today on Nasser Medical Complex and getting the surgery unit out of service is a message from the Israeli occupation to get Nasser Medical Complex out of service. I can say that the Nasser Medical Complex is one of the hospitals, or the biggest hospital currently in operation in the Gaza Strip. The Nasser Medical Complex resumed operations in May last year after it was out of service.
Gaza Civil Defense Agency said that it has lost contact with 6 of its members who had been sent on a rescue mission in the southern city of Rafah. Doha-based news channel Al Jazeera reported that on Sunday, Gaza Civil Defense Agency had sent its first responders and others from the Palestine Red Cross Society to Rafah after receiving calls that Israeli troops had entered the area of Al-Hashashin, and there were casualties. Since then, there's reportedly been no word from the rescuers. According to reports, thousands of Palestinians remain trapped in Rafah. This after Israeli forces reportedly encircled a district on Sunday. Israel had ordered the evacuation of the Tal al-Sultan neighborhood, telling people to leave by foot on a single route to Al-Mawasi, which is the cluster of tent camps along the Gazan coast. But even though thousands reportedly fled, residents said that many were trapped by Israeli soldiers. According to Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, around 730 Palestinians have been killed since Israel resumed attacks on Gaza. 1,300 others have been wounded. That's since Israel broke the ceasefire and restarted and renewed the war in Gaza. Last Tuesday, remember, on March 18th, the Israeli army launched a surprise air campaign on Gaza with hundreds of strikes, and now it is moving its ground troops into the northern and southern parts of the war-battered territory. But ask Israel, and the Netanyahu government says that Israel is fighting the war of the free world. These are the words from Israel. The Times of Israel cited Israeli foreign minister addressing a news conference in West Jerusalem alongside his EU counterpart, saying that it's only natural for Israel to expect European support. I'm quoting as to what he exactly said. We are now fighting the war of the free world. Iran, Houthis, Hamas and Hezbollah attack us because we are nearby. But make no mistake, the war is against Western civilization, against its values and its ways of life, unquote. Over the weekend, the number of people killed in Gaza in the Israel-Hamas war reached a new milestone. And that is, more than 50,000 people have now died in the war in Gaza. With so many dead, and with Israel shattering the ceasefire agreement, many have started questioning the true intentions of Bibi, of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Has Netanyahu restarted Israel's bombing campaign in Gaza because of Hamas refusing to free the remaining hostages? Or is it due to issues he is facing at home?
مؤتمرات وفعاليات.
And continuing with West Asia, the United States has carried out a series of airstrikes in Yemen, targeting sites linked to the Houthis. According to local reports, at least one person died and 13 others, including 3 children, sustained injuries in the capital city of Sana'a. The latest action marked the 10th consecutive day that Washington has launched strikes against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. According to Saudi Arabian news channel Al Hadath, a weapons depot in Sana'a also caught fire following the strikes by the United States, further claiming that a very senior Houthi official also died in these airstrikes. A fact further reinstated by U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. He said that the U.S. had taken out key Houthi leadership, including the head of the group's missile program. The Houthi-run health ministry reported casualties in the U.S. strike in Sana'a, claiming that the strikes also hit a residential building in Yemen's capital. Beyond Sana'a, strikes reportedly hit locations in Sada, the Red Sea port city of Hodeidah, and also the Marib province, which houses Yemen's key oil and gas facilities. The U.S. offensive follows the Houthis' recent threats to resume attacks on Red Sea shipping lanes as a response to Israel's blockade of Gaza and also its support for the Palestinians in Gaza, because that's what the Houthis have been saying. The U.S. began this campaign earlier this month, citing the Houthis' past targeting of vessels in critical shipping routes like the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Waltz said that the Houthis' activities are severely disrupting global shipping, forcing U.S. flagged vessels to bypass the Suez Canal and take a much longer route around Africa. Since the U.S. air campaign began on March 15th, the Houthis claim at least 79 people have been killed with over 100 injured. However, the United States has provided little details about the specific sites being targeted. According to reports, the U.S. strikes are occurring daily across multiple Houthi-controlled locations, focusing on major military assets. While U.S. forces reportedly claim to have destroyed key Houthi command centers, communications hub, missile factories and facilities used for drone manufacturing. However, the Houthis have dismissed these claims, labeling them as baseless and accusing the U.S. of attacking civilian areas only. The conflict between Houthis and the U.S. further underscores the fragile and volatile nature of the current situation in West Asia at the moment. With tensions running high, the consequences of these strikes continue to unfold. Our next story is from India. It is about mob censorship. It is about a joke made by a comedian, or rather, a term used by the comedian, allegedly aimed at the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Suffice to say, the joke did not sit well with the party involved. And in demonstrations, the Deputy Chief Minister's alleged supporters resorted to vandalism, damaging the Mumbai hotel where the show was shot. They also filed a police complaint demanding an apology from the comedian. The question is, did the end justify the means? Let's understand the facts first as to what exactly happened. It all happened on Sunday. Comedian Kunal Kamra's stand-up performance featured a parody song set to the tune of the popular Hindi movie Dil To Pagal Hai. In his parody, he made an apparent reference to Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde's 2022 defection from the undivided Shiv Sena party. Kamra referred to Shinde as a Gaddar, which for our global viewers means traitor. He also made jokes about recent political developments in Maharashtra, including splits within the Shiv Sena and the NCP parties. But it was his use of the term traitor to describe a sitting deputy chief minister that caused the uproar in Maharashtra. Supporters of Maharashtra's regional party Shiv Sena vandalized the hotel in Mumbai. Did not stop there. His supporters also came out on the streets of Mumbai to burn Kamra's photos. Some even accused the comedian of having accepted money from the rival faction to malign the deputy chief minister. Of course, at least 11 party workers were reportedly arrested by the Mumbai police for the vandalism. But now, a big controversy has erupted in the state. In response, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has said that Kamra must apologize for his disrespectful joke.
I believe everyone has the right to do comedy. People have all the rights to express satire. One can make satirical jokes on us, no one would have an objection. However, if someone is deliberately disrespecting someone and defaming great politicians, then that would be intolerable. We will take legal action against this. Kunal Kamra must apologize.
The two factions of the Shiv Sena, the Eknath Shinde camp and the Uddhav Thackeray camp, are now engaged in a heated row. Supporters of the Shinde camp are the ones that vandalized the venue where Kamra was performing. They have also threatened the comedian. In contrast, now the Thackeray camp have defended the comedian, calling it freedom of speech. It all played out on Twitter. Aditya Thackeray condemned the vandalism, questioning the law and order in the state. Meanwhile, Shinde camp's Milind Deora responded to Thackeray's remarks on X by mentioning names of people who he claimed were silenced by the previous government. So, the question right now is, where is Kamra amidst all of this, all the drama that has happened? He has been booked, and according to reports, he is currently out of town in the southern Indian city of Puducherry. Kamra is not in Maharashtra, where the case has been booked. According to Maharashtra Minister Pratap Sarnaik, police teams are coordinating with their counterparts in Puducherry to trace and detain Kamra. He will be arrested and brought to Mumbai, where he will be questioned. But let's get to the main point. Was this an overreaction? Is this just an example of mob censorship? Are comedians forbidden from making jokes about lawmakers? Or does it actually cross a red line? We will leave it up to you to decide. But what we do know is that the outrage over a single joke resulted in vandalism of public property. And is there any valid excuse for vandalizing public property ever? Let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you, we'll get a report on how Israelis have turned against their own. We say that because Israeli officials have arrested a 65-year-old man accused of spying for Iran. We will also tell you about Trump's art attack. The U.S. president has complained about a distorted portrait of him at the Colorado state capitol. And finally, we will get you a story about a rare astronomical event in Abu Dhabi where a celestial phenomenon called inferior conjunction was captured in broad daylight. Shifting our focus to Turkey, which is reeling under widespread demonstrations. If you may wonder, why is that? Because of the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, who happens to be Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's biggest, fiercest political rival. Since the arrest, the police have detained more than 1,100 people, which also include journalists. And as we speak, Turkey may be witnessing the worst unrest in more than a decade. Our next report telling you more.
These are some of the rallying cries that were heard against the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. His wife also joined the chorus and addressed vast crowds of protesters, warning the authorities of the consequences of their actions. In Turkey, tens of thousands of people took to the streets for the fifth night in a row after a Turkish court jailed Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu on corruption charges. The demonstrations, which began in Istanbul last week following the mayor's arrest, have since spread to more than 55 of Turkey's 81 provinces. In the Turkish capital, riot police appeared to push anti-government protesters down a main road with water cannons. The recent protests mark the largest wave of street demonstrations in Turkey in over a decade. Meanwhile, this leader of the main opposition Republican People's Party, or CHP, called on the crowd to boycott pro-government companies, adding that the hurried jailing of the mayor is an attempt at a coup.
By keeping him in prison for 4 days, sending him to court while Turkey was going to the polls for him, and sending him to Silivri prison while Turkey was electing him, he defied not only him, but millions and attempted to stage a coup.
Responding to the accusations, government officials have rejected all claims as they insist that they function independently from Turkey's judiciary. The protests are significant as they deepen concern over the rule of law in Turkey. Moreover, the imprisonment of the Istanbul mayor is being viewed as a political move to remove a top contender from the next presidential race, which is scheduled for 2028. Just this Sunday, İmamoğlu attracted almost 15 million votes and became the main opposition CHP's candidate for the upcoming presidential run. This also comes as European leaders criticized the actions against İmamoğlu to be undemocratic and politically motivated. And now, the unfolding of the courtroom developments seems to have united the opposition against the Erdogan government, which has run Turkey for 22 long years.
He says there is a rival before me. He also sees this rival's rise. He also won the elections in both terms. Because he sees that, he doesn't want him to be my rival. This is my opinion. What can we do? We will pray. May God help us. May God make our ending good. That's all.
In the recent years, many critics have found themselves behind bars after challenging Erdogan. But the arrest of a high-profile figure as the Istanbul mayor. But the latest developments are unprecedented. What happens next? The coming days shall reveal. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Pakistan has charged prominent Baloch rights activist. We are talking about Maharang Baloch and several other activists of terrorism. This after she led the demonstration against the illegal arrest and illegal police remand of the relatives of the victims of enforced disappearances. Maharang, who leads Baloch Yakjehti Committee BYC, is currently lodged in Quetta District Jail along with 150 others. After the brutal crackdown on the Baloch leaders at their demonstration camp, and according to local media reports, the charges on the demonstrators cover offences like terrorism, murder and attempted murder, incitement to violence and rebellion, creating disorder and promoting racial hatred and property damage. Maharang's sister Asma Baloch has alleged that the police is not letting a family meet Maharang, and they were also not allowed to deliver food and other essentials to her. Human rights organization Amnesty International called for Maharang's release in a post on X on Sunday, stating that she had been unlawfully detained for over 38 hours. Maharang Baloch is one of Pakistan's most prominent human rights advocates and the organizer of Baloch Yakjehti Committee, a human rights group. Maharang has long campaigned against oppression of the Baloch ethnic group by the Pakistani state. Her demonstrations have highlighted forced disappearances of Baloch activists in Pakistan. She's also been featured in the BBC 100 Women and Time 100 Next list. Early this month, she was nominated for the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. Over the last decade, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan provinces have reported the highest number of incidents of forced disappearances in Pakistan. According to a report by Pakistan Commission of Inquiry on Enforced Disappearances, at least 10,000 such cases were reported between 2011 and 2024 in Pakistan. Shifting our focus to the United States of America, where U.S. President Donald Trump and U.K. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, they both share a rather complicated relationship. The reason why we say this is because recently Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has dismissed Starmer's plans for an international peacekeeping force as a posture. And this comes as the officials met the Ukrainian counterparts in Saudi Arabia to discuss a ceasefire plan for the Black Sea. Let's first give you a bit of a background as to what happened. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer suggested that a coalition of the willing, which is made up of several European and NATO countries, could provide boots on the ground in Ukraine after ceasefire is secured. Witkoff, who is leading the U.S. ceasefire negotiations from the U.S. with Ukraine and Russia, snubbed Starmer's move in an interview with a pro-Trump journalist. Not just that, he also accused Starmer of adopting the simplistic notion that leaders have to be like Winston Churchill, a prominent British statesman known for his role during the Second World War. Witkoff also praised Vladimir Putin, saying that he liked the Russian president, whom he met 10 days ago. Through the entire length of the interview, Witkoff seemed to have taken a pro-Russia stance, including that Ukraine was, and I quote, a false country. He also added that he hoped that a partial ceasefire would be extended from energy infrastructure to shipping in the next week or so. All said and done, what explains Witkoff's rather sharp comments towards Starmer in a public forum, including his critique of the UK troops, which he said are smaller than the U.S. Marine Corps? Witkoff also did not hold back in his suggestion that UK's economy is in dire situation and that it should watch its own back first. The crux of the matter is, according to him, the framework of the Ukraine peace talks is best left for both leaders, Trump and Putin, to figure out. As he suggested, that UK and other Western European nations failed to understand Russia's aims in the conflict. But what is Starmer's position in all of this? Well, as of now, Starmer has remained pretty unfazed and went on with business as usual. Recently, the UK Prime Minister discussed progress on a trade deal between the UK and US in a phone call with Trump. Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has defended the Prime Minister in an interview with the BBC and confirmed that Starmer's diplomatic efforts to bring together European leaders and other leaders are well on track. But this begs a larger question. Where exactly is the Trump-Putin equation really headed? And if other collaborators between the Russia and US are in the pipeline or not? Witkoff hinted that it isn't unlikely. Vis-a-vis both the countries' energy policies in the Arctic, sharing sea lines, and even collaboration on AI. From the looks of it, Trump seems to be charting his own way into the peace talks, notwithstanding the Western intervention. And with each passing day, his resolve is only growing stronger. Our next story is about the United States of America. Recently, the U.S. removed bounties on 3 senior Taliban figures, including Sirajuddin Haqqani, who is Afghanistan's acting interior minister and leader of the infamous Haqqani network. Washington lifted a $10 million reward for Haqqani, a major Taliban leader. And this marks a major shift in U.S. policy towards Afghanistan. The removal of the bounty raises important questions about the future of U.S. policy towards Taliban rule in Afghanistan. You see, this change occurred just days after Afghanistan released an American. Last week, the Taliban released George Gleesman, who had been held captive for 2 years. Does his release have anything to do with this latest development? Was there a secret deal behind Gleesman's release? You see, Gleesman was abducted while traveling as a tourist in Afghanistan in December 2022. Now, what was an American tourist doing in Afghanistan? And that too, when Taliban is ruling the country. That's a question that I will leave you to guess. But remember, the Taliban takeover of Kabul followed the hasty and chaotic withdrawal of American troops. Gleesman's release marks the 3rd time a U.S. detainee has been freed by the Taliban since January. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had described Gleesman's release as a positive and constructive step. He also thanked Qatar for its role in securing his release. Meanwhile, the rulers of Kabul, the Taliban, stated that the freedom of U.S. detainees is a part of its global normalization efforts. Since taking control of Afghanistan in August 2021, the Taliban has become an international pariah. No country has formally recognized its government, even though several countries continue to operate diplomatic facilities in the country. And now, interestingly, despite the announcement about the removal of bounty on Haqqani, the FBI still lists the reward on its website. According to that, it says Haqqani, and I'm quoting here, believed to have coordinated and participated in cross-border attacks against U.S. and coalition forces in Afghanistan. The Haqqani network is led by the son of a well-known commander from the war against the Soviets. The U.S. has labeled this group as a terror organization, and it is considered one of the most dangerous armed groups in Afghanistan. And that's even after the Taliban took control, the Haqqani network stayed on the U.S. radar. In 2022, a U.S. drone strike in Kabul killed Ayman al-Zawahiri, the then leader of Al-Qaeda, while he was in a house linked to the Haqqani network. Now, reports say that the U.S. might consider re-engaging with the Taliban and may reopen its embassy in Kabul. This move is likely aimed at countering any influence from China or Pakistan, and in Afghanistan, preventing the spread of ISIS-K. Are there back-channel communication going on between the U.S. and the Haqqani network? And that only time will tell. Well, in today's fast-paced world, technology is all around us. We wake up to smart alarms, interact with virtual assistants, and spend hours scrolling through social media. But have you ever wondered, as we get more connected to our devices, we might be becoming more disconnected from each other? It has been over 2 years since OpenAI released ChatGPT. Since then, it has taken the world by storm, attracting 400 million weekly active users worldwide. But could AI, the very tool that promises to make our lives easier, contributing something deeper, perhaps loneliness? We're not saying it. According to a new research conducted by OpenAI and MIT, those who spent more time speaking with ChatGPT reported higher levels of emotional dependence on the app. In short, Higher usage of chatbots like ChatGPT may correspond with increased loneliness and less time spent socializing with other people. Now, to conduct the studies, researchers followed nearly 1,000 people for a month to examine how participants interacted with ChatGPT for a minimum of 5 minutes each day. At the end of the experiment, the participants had to fill out a questionnaire to measure their perception of the chatbot, which includes various issues, for example, feeling of loneliness, level of social engagement, and their dependence on the bot. The researchers found that participants who trusted and bonded with ChatGPT were more likelier to be lonely than others. Researchers also observed a catch-22 situation, where ChatGPT's voice mode made users less lonely. But participants who were already lonely at the start of the study were more likely to overuse the tool and ultimately worsen their situation. The latest study gives us greater insights into ChatGPT's impact on us and how humans engage with this technology on an emotional level. While there are growing concerns with the way AI is being used, experts say that the answer is not to abandon AI altogether. Instead, it is about finding the right balance. There are no two ways about the fact that technology enhances and makes our life much easier. However, it should never replace the irreplaceable value of human connection. Well, with over 1.7 million tulips of 74 varieties, Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar, Kashmir is all set to be thrown open to the public from March 26th. Hundreds of gardeners are working tirelessly to make sure that the garden is in full bloom at the time of the opening. And our special correspondent, Idris Lone, gets you this report.
The Tulip Garden, located below the Zabarwan Hills and overlooking the world-famous Dal Lake, is looking no less than a floral wonderland. The Floriculture Department is also planning a Tulip Spring Festival in the month of April.
This show, Tulip Show 2025, will be a glamorous show, displaying a showcase of vibrant colors in which we are going to display almost 74 tulip varieties only. Apart from this, we have a very good collection of daffodils, hyacinths and muscaries that will give a vibrant look and a rainbow of colors, as Tulip Garden has a history in the earlier times.
Hundreds of gardeners and staff are working day and night to ready the garden for public. It takes around 6 months to get the garden ready, and huge planning is done much ahead of the opening of the garden. This year, the Floriculture Department expects all previous records of tourist footfall to be broken. The Tulip Garden has become famous among people across India. A lot of travelers plan their visit to the valley during the tulip bloom. This year, the Floriculture Department has planted other varieties of flowers like hyacinths, daffodils, muscari and cyclamens to make the garden look more colorful.
The number of varieties this year is 74 as against 73 last year. And the number of tourists last year was 4.5 lakh. We expect that the number would increase substantially this year. Local as well as non-local. You might have seen the number of tourists who are eager to enter the garden so that they can have a look at what is happening here.
The garden was built in 2008 by the then Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Ghulam Nabi Azad, to attract more tourists to the valley. Last year, the garden was included into the London World Book of Records as Asia's largest tulip garden.
Asia's largest tulip garden, located in Srinagar, is all set to be thrown open for public from March 26th. Last year, the garden had over 400,000 visitors, while as authorities this year believe that all the previous records of the tourist footfall to the garden would be broken this year. With video journalist Firoz Idris Sloan for WION World is One.
Social media has become an integral part of our life. While some use it to connect with friends and family, others use it for entertainment purpose. But life without social media might sound impossible today. A new report suggests that social media might be harming our minds without us even knowing about it. And it's most likely to harm those who suffer from psychological disorders. According to a study published in BMC, a peer-reviewed open-access scientific journal, social media can amplify and strengthen delusional beliefs, reinforce inaccurate self-perceptions, and overemphasize internal mental issues. As a part of the study, researchers reviewed over 2,500 available studies on the topic social media use and psychiatric disorders, published between 2004 and 2022. The study suggests that being online where one is not physically there can make it harder for a person to have a solid sense of themselves, possibly leading them to overthink, which could then worsen delusions. It was found that people with narcissistic tendencies, body image issues, and eating disorders had a much higher rate of social media usage. However, the issue was not just how much they use social media, but how these platforms reinforce their distorted views of themselves. The strongest connections were seen in individuals who rely on social media to build and confirm this self-image. These people often engage in behaviors like taking too many selfies, constantly comparing themselves to others, and obsessively checking online feedback. While the study highlights how social media may worsen delusions, researchers do acknowledge that further study is required to establish casualty platform-specific effects and long-term impacts as well. On the world of business now, India's leading airlines, Air India, Indigo and SpiceJet, are resisting a government request for detailed airfare data, citing competitive risks. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation had asked carriers to provide 2 years' worth of passenger fare details, including booking dates, base fares, and even flight occupancy. The airlines represented by the Federation of Indian Airlines argue that disclosing such data could undermine their business strategies. The airlines informed the regulator that the request could expose sensitive pricing models to third parties. Instead, they proposed sharing broader data on fare brackets. India's airline industry has operated under deregulated pricing since 1994. Under current rules, airlines must set reasonable tariffs based on operational costs, market conditions, and profitability. While the government imposed fare caps during the COVID-19 pandemic, these were lifted in 2022. And the latest standoff comes amid growing scrutiny of airfare spikes, especially during peak travel periods and holiday seasons. While Indian regulators insist that they do not intend to control ticket pricing, they aim to strengthen oversight through the DGCA's Tariff Monitoring Unit, which was set up in 2010 to track fare fluctuations. Airlines, however, argue that market-driven pricing has enhanced competition and accessibility, making regulatory intervention unnecessary. Well, it's never a dull day in the life of U.S. President Donald Trump. In the very latest, he has now made a unique complaint about his distorted portrait at the Colorado State Capitol. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote that nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves. He went on to say that the portrait was purposefully distorted and pinned the blame on Governor Jad Polis while making such a claim. Trump was also quick to draw a comparison between the artist's impression of him and Barack Obama, which he said turned out to be pretty well. While Trump seemed to be quite upset, and understandably so, his blame on Governor Judd is unfounded. as a Democrat practically had nothing to do with the portrait of Trump. Rather, it was a Republican state senator named Kevin Grantham who raised funds to get Trump's portrait up in 2019. However, this is an interesting twist to it and perhaps little to Trump's knowledge. Just a year before, in 2018, Democrats had reportedly put up a picture of Vladimir Putin at the Colorado state capitol in a bid to embarrass the Republicans, at the same spot where Trump's portrait hangs today. All in all, a disgruntled Trump has asked for his portrait to be taken down, claiming that taxpayers seem to be complaining about it. Quite unbecoming for a man whose own Oval Office is decked up with a plethora of his portraits and his pictures and his mugshot as well. Turns out Trump's art attack is scarier and one to be braced from. We now shift our attention to the United Arab Emirates, where the skies above displayed a rare astronomical event. Astronomers at the Al Khatim Observatory captured Venus as a glowing crescent, that too in broad daylight. At precisely 9:18 a.m. local time, Venus positioned itself between Earth and the Sun, resulting in a breathtaking crescent of Venus, very similar to the Moon's phases. The observatory's astronomers with an advanced telescope managed to capture this fleeting moment. Venus, often dubbed as Earth's twin, showcases phases like the Moon as it orbits the Sun. However, witnessing these phases during daylight is considered exceptionally rare. All right, South Korea is now struggling to control raging wildfires. Thousands of soldiers and firefighters are on the ground trying to put out the deadly blazes that have been burning for days now, killing 4 people and displacing nearly 2,700. These are the aerial visuals of the wildfire in southeastern regions of South Korea. It has killed, like I mentioned, 3 firefighters and a public servant. The wildfires have prompted the government to declare a state of emergency in southeastern regions. Officials have warned that high winds and rising temperatures are hindering efforts to control the fires. The wildfires have caused extensive damage. Over 9,000 staff and 105 helicopters were deployed to quell fires engulfing mainly southeastern regions of South Korea. Korea Forest Services has issued severe fire warnings, highest level of it being in 12 locations, including North and South Gyeongsang provinces, Busan and Daejeon. More than 300 personnel along with 20 helicopters have been deployed to tackle the fire in Sancheong County, which began on Friday afternoon. South Korea's Interior Ministry said that more than 200 residents in 15 southern villages have been told to evacuate. South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who was reinstated as the acting president, visited the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures headquarters, urging officials to work together until the wildfires are completely extinguished. According to the head of the Korea Forest Service, nearly 7,000 hectares of land has been affected and around 600 people were evacuated. In order to prioritize the safety of people, the country's defense minister said that some 1,300 troops from the Army, Marine Corps and Air Force as well as 35 choppers have been mobilized to help contain the wildfires. The government has also designated 3 southeastern counties ravaged by wildfires as special disaster zones. Well, it's now time for Gravitas Recall, and on this day in 1999, NATO bombed Yugoslavia on March 24, 1999. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization commenced airstrikes against Yugoslavia with the bombing of Serbian military positions. and that happened in the Yugoslavia province of Kosovo. The NATO offensive came in response to a new wave of ethnic cleansing launched by Serbian forces against the Kosovar Albanians. The airstrikes lasted from 24th March 1999 till 10th June 1999. It continued until an agreement was reached that led to the withdrawal of the Yugoslav army from Kosovo and the establishment of the United Nations Interim Administration Mission in Kosovo, a UN peacekeeping mission that is in the region. And well, that's all that we could pack for you in today's edition of Gravitas. But before we slip into a very short break, we're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview.
Watch me on Token Money Magnet, where I decode tokenization for you only on WION.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer, transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Culp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back and thank you for joining us at this hour. This is WION The World is One. We are glad you're watching. Time now for Pulse. I'm Eric Njoka. Let's start with our top stories. Ukraine claims at least 65 injured in Russian attack in Sumy. This even as U.S. holds talks with Russian and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia to discuss a partial ceasefire. Egypt introduces a fresh proposal to revive the ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. While Hamas responds positively, Israel denies receiving terms. Israeli anti-government protesters rally outside the residence of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. This amid growing dissent towards his cabinet for the resumption of bombings in Gaza and moves on officials deemed hostile to the government. U.S. military planes arrive in Greenland's airport ahead of a visit by U.S. Second Lady Usha Vance. This even as Denmark Foreign Minister calls the visit inappropriate. The Allahabad High Court Bar Association on Monday announces an indefinite strike from Tuesday. This hours after the Supreme Court notified the transfer of Justice Yashwant Verma. The U.S. almost doubles imports of Brazilian eggs and considers relaxing regulations for eggs. This as President Donald Trump's administration seeks to bring down sky-high prices spiked by bird flu, and Brazil faces a two-digit inflation for this staple. Dozens of fires driven by strong gusts of wind keep southern Chile on alert. Authorities say about 2,000 hectares, 20 homes, have been gutted down. Indian Navy's aircraft carrier INS Vikrant and French Navy's Charles de Gaulle among high-profile warships taking part in the India-France naval exercise Varuna 2025 in the Arabian Sea. Fighter jets, destroyers, frigates and submarines have also taken part in this exercise. Denmark's two-time Tour de France winner Jonas Vingegaard reveals he suffered from a lengthy concussion after crashing during the Paris